There's a reason why therapists don't counsel themselves and why doctors don't diagnose their own symptoms. When we are too close to a problem, we can lose all objectivity. And the same thing is true with your creative business, right? We can get so wrapped up in improving our craft and posting more content that we can miss the problems and even the opportunities that are right there in front of us. And after working with easily over 100 creatives at this point, I think, if I can be honest, that I've gotten kind of good at spotting these problems, at seeing the simple fixes that can lead to huge breakthroughs in your business. So welcome back to my series Business Breakthrough, where I roast or really just give feedback on your creative business. I try and be that outside perspective that looks at your business and just tells you exactly how I see it and what I think you could do better. The 4 creatives I'm featuring today, selected from hundreds of applications, are, as always, incredibly talented. They range from a Native American jewelry designer to an illustrator that's been full-time for over a decade. But despite all of their talent, they're facing challenges that are really common. They're struggling to stand out online and to convert the audience that they do have into paying customers. The good news is that these are all very tractable problems that I think we can figure out a solution for. So we're gonna take a look at these 4 artists, their businesses, and figure out what they are doing wrong, how they can fix it, and as always, what you can learn from it. First up, we have Madison, who creates incredibly skilled Native American beaded jewelry under the name Beading Hearts. Madison's handcrafted pieces are so gorgeous, and they involve incredibly skilled, time-intensive work that can take days or even weeks to complete. While Madison has built a small following and regularly gets bursts of sales reaching $1,000, she is struggling with the classic feast or famine cycle, going months sometimes between those successful periods with little to no sales. Hey Madison, your work, gorgeous. I love it so much. My mom does beadwork. I know how many hours go into stuff like this. I think it is so cool and very skilled what you are doing. I do think though that, to be honest, you are not giving your work the professionalism it deserves almost, I think. Let me explain what I mean by that. These product photos, can we talk about them for a second? Because I think they are a symptom of a larger problem. I think, number one, off-white on a white background, not a good look, okay? I don't like it. The kind of uneven lighting seen here, especially in this image, but a lot of the other ones too, communicates a certain lack of professionalism that undervalues your work, that doesn't justify the price point. Your work is really good. The photography, we could work on it. Even on your Instagram, we kind of have the same problems, but notice that this post got 38 likes, 28, 61, but the photo of you, where you are actually wearing your own work, you're posing for the camera, it's a great shot, you're gorgeous, right? 136. Same kind of deal, you are posing with your work, 329. There is a appetite, I think, amongst your audience that you already have of seeing your work in action, seeing it modeled, going out there into the world. In your form, you talked about how it's tricky to post consistently because your work takes so much time. But those 2 things are not connected. Those 2 things are not even close to being connected because you don't have to have a new finished piece every time you post. No, your audience is not gonna see every single one of your posts. So let's take a look at some more established brands in this space that I think you could plausibly take some inspiration from. So there are 2 examples. The first one is Mother Sierra. Mother Sierra is a beaded jewelry brand, just like yours, but they lift up artisans from Mexico and Guatemala. The one thing they do that I think you could stand to do in your own business is they do model photography. They do modeled photography all the time. They showcase the artisans, they showcase their customers, they showcase random models. But in your case, just have it be you. Just literally take photos and videos of you showing your work. Like this right here. Do this. This is great. You see how it's just a nice composed shot that showcases the work. She's gorgeous, she's in frame, that's part of it, right? Obviously. But The highlight is the work. And the outfit she's wearing is very simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated. More professional photography, the aesthetics of it, back up and validate the price that you are commanding. And if you wanted to charge more, if you were like, I do actually feel like I'm undercharging, I do want to charge more, then having more of a professional brand, and by that I mean like higher quality photos, more styled, more branded, you will be able to command that higher price tag. I want you to find a friend that you think represents your ideal customer. Invite them out to a park for an hour. Take a bunch of photos, a bunch of videos, a bunch of photos with all the pieces that you currently have available to you, and schedule that out. It does not have to be a new piece every single time, right? Just showcase your work as it is. Show it on people. You can do a photo shoot for 2 hours and have something like, 100 images. If you post 1 image a day, that's content for 3 months. You could do really nice carousel posts. You could do Instagram reels. You could even do more kind of lifestyle content that showcases your process, right? Or even your finished work and what you would want someone to do with it. Do a get ready with me video where you feature your products, right? Even do some kind of nice macro photography of you doing the individual beads. Show it in real time. Have it be nicely produced. The other example that I have is even more branded, and there are less kind of faces on screen, if that's an obstacle for you. This particular brand is mostly bracelets and stuff. They do a lot of Native American beadwork, specifically from the New Mexico kind of area, so lifting up those folks. And I think their content, very cool, very inspirational. Here's a short video they made of the process itself. Notice how nicely produced this is. Did they film the entire process from start to finish? No. They showed you the most interesting parts in a nicely produced way. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway that I want you to do here. You do not have to film your entire process or post only when you have new things. Showcase the skill of your work, how incredibly human it is. Make it even a moment for your customer to live by their values. If people say that they hate AI and they want to support humans, then invite them to support a human, and a human that has built their business on lifting up and continuing a very old tradition. I think that would be a great opportunity for you. I want a world where beating hearts is lifted up a little bit, just elevated slightly in terms of kind of quality of art direction of the photos on your Instagram profile, because we don't have to change a single thing about the work that you are making to, I think, maybe even exponentially increase your sales. Our next artist is Josie Ann, a scientist by day and an artist by night. Josie Ann is a watercolor artist who creates beautiful Victorian-style naturalist work. Think detailed botanical illustrations and wildlife studies with an antique, cozy aesthetic. By day, she's a scientist, and by night, she is an artist, which gives her this really unique perspective that comes through in her meticulous approach to capturing nature. Josie Ann's biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to market herself authentically. She knows that she hasn't found her footing yet and struggles with how to merge her scientific background with her artistic practice in a way that attracts the right audience. Okay, Julie, let's take a look at your Instagram. I took a look at some of your reels, and I think that we're leaving some opportunities on the table here. A lot of your posts are kind of similar in that it's often just a trending audio and a process. Your work is beautiful, but I'm not seeing the scientist aspect here. And I know that you mentioned that you wanted to figure out how to weave that in, but I kind of don't see it present at all right now, and I wish it was. There is actually a ton of historical precedent for this niche merging, and it's the Pre-Raphaelites. The Pre-Raphaelites had a huge focus on science. They were actually creating art at a very crucial period of scientific history. A lot of these creatives were painting next to Charles Darwin and a ton of really influential scientists of the 19th and 20th century. The Pre-Raphaelites committed themselves to creating a new kind of art modeled on science, in which precise observation could lead to new discoveries about nature and humanity. There we go, right? Buy this book. Like, literally, buy this book, read it, think about how you can merge your scientific training with your art. I think you will see a fit there. It does exist. You mentioned that you love cozy stuff and you love antique stuff. That can be a part of kind of the aesthetics of your brand, right? But in terms of the core content, I think I would love to see a future where you are kind of half artist, half science educator. And as you are sharing your work, tell me why it's important, right? Tell me more about the science part. Like, okay, you say that you have a creative soul, but a scientific brain, right? Like, how do these things merge for you? How do they interact? What kind of conflicts might arise? How does your scientific training impact your creative practice? How does this affect your artistic philosophy? Like, how? I want more story. I want more context. I want more information here. I want the scientist aspect to be more present. If I were you, I would also really focus while you are creating your content on making sure that you film it in such a way that is approachable for even folks that do not know who you are. Like, as I watched some of your Instagram reels, there was sometimes a presumption of familiarity that did not exist, and that might actually turn folks off who are scrolling and then find your reel for the first time. Like, for example, sometimes you open and it's kind of like unusually close to the camera. I do that constantly. I am always pushing up my glasses, but there's like an intimacy here that, while I don't mind, I think might put some people off, right? I think I want a stronger hook in your content. So let's talk about a plausible hook that you might want to use in your content. For folks that don't know, there is like some thought in the scientific world that we are currently in a mass extinction event for a bunch of different kinds of insects, and that somewhere between 10 to 40% of insect species might be at risk of extinction. There's a lot of debate on whether that is exaggerated, whether it's real. Like, a lot of methodology in studies like this is pretty sketchy sometimes, I find, but it is a number that is being thrown around. If we were to take that number as fact, here's a hook that you might create in response. You might say something like, in the next 30 years, thousands of species will go extinct. So I'm trying to paint as many as I can before they're gone. My name's Julie. I'm a scientist by day, an artist by night, and then you could, go off and talk about whatever. But that's a way more compelling hook than watch me pack an order, or like not even doing a hook and just having your process plus a trending audio. Like, get people invested in your work and your mission, right? And frame it in such a way that is approachable and interesting for folks that do not know who you are and do not care about you yet. Growth mindset, right? I think that is maybe what I would consider doing. That's my advice to you. Again, your work, as always, like, everyone's work is so good, right? It's like, I think that talking less about your individual process as an artist and more about the science, more about the reason why you are painting what you paint, what it means to you, how it connects to your scientific background, will help you connect with an audience that likes science, that likes bugs, that likes plants, and that is, interested in purchasing your work. The, kind of hot take that I have that rankles feathers sometimes is that often you do not want your audience to be other artists, because that might not be the person that will be most excited about your work. So consider how you might attract folks that are really interested in animals and plants and that would love to learn cool animal facts about the things that you are making art about. So that is my advice to you, Julie. Again, your work, incredible. I think there is so much opportunity for you here, but I would suggest making those kind of small changes. And that is all of the advice that I have for you, Julie. But before we continue this episode, I want to give a brief thank you to Squarespace, who is sponsoring this video. Speaking of creating content that assumes your viewer has never heard of you before, your website should do the exact same thing. When someone discovers your work and wants to learn more, that first impression is everything. I have been a Squarespace customer for going on 8 years now, which is crazy, almost a decade. I have tried other website builders, but I always come back to Squarespace because of how easy to use and customizable it is. It is truly the perfect all-in-one platform for creatives. I can design a sales page for a product in an hour and start selling immediately. Or I can completely change the colors and fonts of my site with just a few clicks. Their fluid engine makes creating a website that perfectly encapsulates my brand as easy as dragging and dropping elements. But a good website is more than just great design. Creative businesses need integrated tools for selling products, building email lists, and calculating sales taxes. Squarespace and their third-party extensions can make all of that work easier, so you can get back to actually creating. If you want to give it a try, go to squarespace.com/Kelsey Rodriguez or use my code Kelsey Rodriguez at checkout for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the episode. Next up, we have Josie Alorenzo, an illustrator creating whimsical, spooky illustrations of Victorian ghostly children in a series that he calls The Orphans of Dudleytown. Josie L's work has this incredible Edward Gorey meets Wednesday Addams kind of aesthetic, and he's been successfully making a living as a full-time artist for an entire decade, which is insanely impressive and something worth celebrating. But despite his experience and the fact that his work clearly suggests a rich, cohesive world with deep story potential, Josiel is struggling with consistent sales and has not fully developed the narrative elements that could set his work apart online. Let's take a look at your Instagram, Josiel, because I think there is stuff to talk about here. So first up, I'm not a fan of this day 1, day 10 stuff you got going on here, okay? I think this is not compelling content, to be honest. The cover, the image isn't. They're carousel posts, so there's more going on here. Again, you always want to operate under the assumption that someone could be finding you from this post for the first time, and you want to have your best foot forward. I'm kind of going to talk about your Instagram presence and social media marketing in general, and using analogies of displaying at in-person shows, because it seems like your bread and butter of your business is tabling at craft fairs, art fairs, events, conventions, stuff like that, right? In-person events. And when you are designing a table for an in-person event, you really focus on it being attention grabbing, right? And there being stuff to look at that is compelling, and having your table design and your banner and all of your branding, the little accessories that you have, for that to be a kind of representative image of who you are as an artist and what your work is about, right? And I think that you should always try and have your social media profiles be a version of that, right? Be representative of who you are as an artist and what your work is about. And at first glance, if I just saw this, 9x9 square of posts, I would not understand who you are and what your work is about. And that bothers me. That to me is like a red flag, a sign that we have to change something here. One thing also that kind of mystifies me on your website is how little information we have about this project. Every single piece that you have tells a story, but it doesn't seem to me like you are articulating that story, at least in your website. So when I look at the prints on wood, for example, I think that there's an opportunity here for this description to tell me more about this illustration. Who is this girl, right? What's her deal? What's she about? I want to know. But when I look at your products, And especially the descriptions, like, I don't know, any of these images, right? Okay, you say this hedge witch surrounded by her favorite plants, and then my plants preserve my deepest secrets. There's a story potential there, you know? I imagine a world where your product descriptions are a little bit more expanded, there's a little more story there, you know, like 2 additional lines that just tell us some more facts about this particular orphan, what her deal is. When I was first reviewing your application and taking a look at your work, I was really surprised that you did not have a book, that you did not have some kind of narrative component to your work, because there is such a richness there, such a strong potential for you to tell us more about what this series means to you, who these orphans are, why they are all in Dudleytown, like, what has orphaned them, why are they in this place. And I think it would add a lot to your work to explain that. And you do on your Instagram kind of go into what this series means to you a little bit, kind of briefly, but I don't see it as even a thing that you talk about very often. I do think that because your work is so personal, because it's really all about reclaiming a childhood that you did not have an opportunity to have, and that you view, from what I can tell, dark aesthetics, the kind of goth aesthetics, as not like macabre, like Edward Gorey, who in this little book on the alphabet literally has a page where he says, V is for Victor squashed under a train. Like, it's just very macabre. I think while your work is stylistically similar to Edward Gorey, it's not philosophically similar. Like, I think you view darkness as a source of peace and comfort and freedom. And while I'm reading that into your work, I think it would be even better if you just said that. I almost want your Instagram account to feel like I have stepped into Dudleytown, for this to be such an immersive experience that I understand who these characters are, what they are about, what the world is like here, and where you fit into that as a creative, and why this work matters to you, why it is important. Even you could do like little comics, like you already are adding text to your work. Maybe have a little bit more going on here. Like, what happened this week in Dudleytown? What happens on Halloween in Dudleytown? And again, I want to go back to that analogy that I brought in earlier of viewing your Instagram account as the table that you have at an event, and making sure that the way that you are posting online invites people to approach you, right? That it is an effective introduction to who you are and what you do. Your bio isn't enough here, right? When people find your post, they're doing so in their feed. They're not clicking into your bio immediately, right? They want an introduction to who you are and why they should care about your work immediately. So give them that reason to care. But that's all of my advice, Josie L. And with that, let's talk about our last artist for this episode. Finally, we have Melquia Smith, an award-winning children's book illustrator. In between illustrating children's books, Melquia noticed a problem. It was difficult to find clip art of Black and brown kids that did not perpetuate damaging stereotypes. So she began creating clip art for educators and other small businesses that would try to fill that need. She's built this into a $9 monthly membership and is doing everything right from a marketing perspective. She's running ads, she's collaborating with creators, building her email list, but she's struggling to make the numbers work as her ad costs eat into her already thin profit margins. Okay, Melquia, let's take a look at your work. I have a lot to say about this. So one thing that I notice as I go through your Instagram is that you create like a lot of different kinds of content. There's clips, studio paint, tutorials, and kind of announcements. There's stuff about children's books. There's stuff about kind of the creator economy and what it's like to be an artist. We actually spoke at the same virtual event a couple weeks ago, which is very exciting. And I feel like this is maybe not your ideal audience. Hear me out. If the kind of clip art membership is your mission, if you really want to exist in a world and create a world where textbooks and educational material are more inclusive and do not give in to damaging stereotypes. I don't think that necessarily building an audience of other creatives and other entrepreneurs will give you the outcome that you are looking for. Like, a $9 membership is not trivial in terms of the amount of money that it could bring in, but at that low ticket price, if you watch my video on stickers, you know this, at a low ticket price, you have to do a lot of volume to meet your financial goals, and that is going to be challenging for someone that has a small audience like you, right? So if we shift our focus, I think there's room for a lot more financial growth a lot more quickly. So here's kind of my pitch, right? I think that you should refocus your efforts and target institutions and try to have your work not just, on worksheets that one person will hand out to their students, but in textbooks, right? In these like big spaces. And those contracts are going to be a lot larger than a $9 membership at your size. And in your content, you can even create content about championing this cause, right? Like, make this your mission. Be like, I'm Melquia Smith, and I believe that existing textbooks perpetuate damaging stereotypes. I think that textbooks have a racism problem. I think that they are flawed in XYZ ways. Like, talk about that, right? Be passionate about it because you are passionate about this problem. That's why you are creating this work and offering this service. If you target these big institutions and kind of those big contracts, number one, you're going to have to do a lot less selling and make a lot more, right? If you try and target $20,000 for the ability to, license your work, just getting that one contract is more than some folks make in a year, you know what I mean? And if you do 3 of them, congrats, you're making $60K. And the fact that you are literally an award-winning children's book illustrator makes the pitch really compelling and makes you someone immediately worth listening to. And while we're talking about the clip art subscription service, I do want to look at your sales page because I think that you are missing some opportunities there. So, number one, I have to scroll a long time to find it. And that's kind of, I don't like that, Like, a random visitor of your website is not going to scroll this far to find this thing and will never discover that you have brown sugar graphics and that you offer this service. So let's take a look at the sales page. I do think that the kind of immediate thing that I wish that we had here was this clip art in practice. Like, show me little visuals of these illustrations on worksheets, these illustrations on educational material, and have this be throughout, right? I think maybe way down here you have a couple of examples, but I really had to scroll. And I don't like that. I want this to be almost immediate. And instead of this video being on the side, I would make a video that has a background a little more complementary to the overall colors of your website, and then have it be the first thing that we see. I do this on my own sales pages. Let's, just literally take a look. The video, bright and center, right? Like, it is first and foremost the thing that you will immediately see, and then I have a big headline, and then I show like a hint of the actual product, and then another hint while I am talking about the benefits and the features, etc. And then I also have like testimonials throughout, right? I think I want you to do a kind of similar thing here where we see examples like, okay, you're talking about the problem. People are scouring the internet for examples of clip art that feel like they represent their community. They can't find it. That really sucks. You are providing a solution to that problem, right? So let's see it in practice. Let's see your clip art, your illustrations on educational material, like in the desired use case, right? And you have testimonials way down here, but they need to be way higher. Like, I want validation that you are someone worth buying from basically immediately. I make this mistake on my own sales page. I have better examples in other sales pages, but I think I would try to have a testimonial right here even. I would also potentially dial down some of these words and focus on having more images. Like, I'm using my sales page, it's like it's a good example, I think, and like one that I know really well. But notice how I have image, text, text, image, image, text. Like, this is a testimonial right here, and then I have another kind of visual of the features and testimonials. I kind of want, again, you to do something similar here where this text is a little bit more well-designed, a little more skimmable, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we see, again, in practice, your clip art, how it will be used by people. Again, a good direction to pursue would be a more like big name institutional audience. And if you wanted to network with folks that are like that, folks that could get you and your work placed in textbooks and partnering with school districts, you may want to consider, yes, continuing to post on Instagram, but also posting on LinkedIn. Because that audience, that group of people that work in a professional setting and that want solutions for professional problems will be on LinkedIn. As cringe as it is, I think it is worth posting there. And that is all of the advice that I have for you, Melquia. I wish you all the best. And for everyone watching, there is one really big takeaway that I want you to get from this episode. Small shifts can lead to massive breakthroughs. Madison doesn't have to change her art. All that she has to do is to market it as the luxury product it already is. Josie L doesn't have to post every day. He just needs to tell the stories his existing work is already suggesting. I want you to keep an eye out for areas of your business that might put off potential customers. Whether that's an absence of context or product photos that don't back up the value of your work, all too often your business does not need a total overhaul. It just needs a couple of hours worth of work put into the area where you're the weakest. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. I have a lot of fun creating these, and whenever you're ready, I have a bunch of ways that I can help you and your own business, from workshops to my book to even paid coaching calls if you are interested. But for most creatives, the area where you're weakest is likely how you talk about the products that you offer. So watch this video next to figure out how to solve that problem. And I'll see you there.